Welcome to my channel, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Just listen to the stories and repeat with me to improve your English. The Open Boat. One of them knew the color of the sky. Their eyes glanced level and remained upon the waves that swept toward them. These waves were gray except for the tops, which were white, and all the men knew the colors of the sea. The line between sky and water narrowed and widened and fell and rose. A man likes to take a bath in a bigger area than this boat could provide. These waves were frightfully rapid and tall, and each boiling white top was a problem in the small boat. The cook sat in the bottom and looked with both eyes at the 6 inches of boat which separated him from the ocean. He had bared his fat arms as he worked to empty the water from the boat. Often he said, "God, that was a bad one." As he remarked it, he always looked toward the east over the rough sea. The oiler, guiding with one of the 2 oars in the boat, sometimes raised himself suddenly to keep away from the water that poured in. It was a thin little oar, and it often seemed ready to break. The correspondent, pulling at the other oar, watched the waves and wondered why he was there. The hurt captain lying in the front was feeling defeat and despair. It was despair that comes, for a time at least, to even the bravest and most enduring. When the business fails, the army loses, the ship goes down. The mind of the master of a vessel is rooted deep in her wood, whether he commands for a day or many, and this captain had in his thoughts the firm impression of a scene in the grays of dawn with 7 faces turned down in the sea, and later the remains of the ship washed by waves going low and lower and down. Thereafter there was something strange in his voice. Although steady, it was deep with grief and of a quality beyond speech or tears. "Keep her a little more south, Billy," said he. "A little more south, sir," said the oiler in the back. A seat in this boat was not unlike a seat upon a jumpy horse, and a horse is not much smaller. The boat was much like an animal. As each wave came, and she rose for it, she seemed like a horse leaping over a high fence. The manner of her ride over these walls of water is a thing of mystery. Each wave required a new leap and a leap from the air. Then jumping and slipping and racing and dropping down, she steadied for the next threat. A particular danger of the sea is the fact that after successfully getting through one wave, you discover that there is another behind it. The next wave is just as nervously anxious and purposeful to overturn boats. In a 10-foot boat, one can get a good idea of the great force of the sea. As each gray wall of water approached, it shut all else from the view of the men in the boat. It was not difficult to imagine that this particular wave was the final outburst of the ocean, the last effort of the determined water. The sun climbed steadily up the sky. The men knew it was broad day because the color of the sea changed from gray to green, and the white tops were like falling snow. From their low boat they could not see the sun rise. Only the color of the waves that rolled toward them told them that day was breaking. The oiler and the correspondent rowed the tiny boat, and they rowed. They sat together in the same seat, and each rowed an oar. Then the oiler took both oars, then the correspondent took both oars, then the oiler, then the correspondent. They rowed and they rowed. The captain, hesitating in the front, after the boat had climbed a great wave, said that he had seen the light at Mosquito Inlet. After a while, the cook remarked that he had seen it. The correspondent was at the oars then, and he too wished to look at the lighthouse. But his back was toward the far shore. The waves were important, and for some time he could not seize an opportunity to turn his head. But at last there came a wave more gentle than the others. When at the top of it, he hurriedly searched the western water with his eyes. "See it?" asked the captain. "No," said the correspondent slowly. "I didn't see anything." "Look again," said the captain. He pointed. "It's exactly in that direction." At the top of another wave, the correspondent did as he was told. This time his eyes found a small still thing on the edge of the moving ocean. It was exactly like the point of a pin. It took an anxious eye to find a lighthouse so tiny. "Think we'll reach it, Captain?" "If this wind stays steady and the boat doesn't sink, we can't do much else," said the captain hopefully. Then he added, "Empty her, cook." "All right, Captain," said the cheerful cook. It would be difficult to describe the secure bond between men that was here established on the seas. No one said that it was so, no one mentioned it, but it was on the boat, and each man felt it warm him. They were a captain, an oiler, a cook, and a correspondent, and they were friends. Friends in a more strangely iron-bound strength than may be ordinary. The hurt captain, lying against the water jar in the front, spoke always in a low voice and calmly. But he could never command a more ready two-bay ship's company than the other three in the boat. It was more than a mere recognition of what was best for their safety. There was surely in it a quality that was personal and heartfelt. And after this devotion to the commander of the boat, there was this oneness. The correspondent, who had been taught to be a hard judge of men, knew even at the time that it was the best experience of his life, but no one said it was so. No one mentioned it. "I wish we had a sail," remarked the captain. "We might try my coat on the end of an oar. It would give you two boys a chance to rest." So the cook and the correspondent held the oar and spread wide the coat. Sometimes the oiler had to turn sharply to keep the sea from breaking into the boat, but otherwise sailing was a success. The lighthouse had been growing slowly larger. It now almost had color and appeared like a little gray shadow on the sky. The men holding high the oar could not be prevented from turning their heads quite often to glance at this little gray shadow. At last, from the top of each wave, the men in the rolling boat could see land. As the lighthouse was a shadow on the sky, this land seemed only a long black shadow on the sea. It certainly was thinner than paper. The wind slowly died away. The cook and the correspondent did not now have to labor to hold high the oar, but the waves continued pushing and turning and washing the boat. Slowly the land rose from the sea. From a black line it became a line of black and white, trees and sand. Finally the captain said he could see a house on the shore. "They'll see us before long and come out after us," said the cook. The distant lighthouse rose high. "The keeper ought to be able to see us now," said the captain. "None of those other boats could have reached shore to give word of our ship," said the oiler in a low voice, "or the lifeboat would be out hunting for us." Slowly and beautifully the land came out of the sea. The wind came again. Finally a new sound struck the ears of the men in the boat. It was the low thunder of waves beating the shore. "We'll never be able to reach the lighthouse now," said the captain. "Swing her a little more north, Billy." "A little more north, sir," said the oiler. So the little boat turned her nose once more down the wind. All except the oarsmen watched the shore grow. Doubt and fear were leaving the minds of the men. The management of the boat still took most of their attention. but it could not prevent a quiet cheerfulness. In an hour, perhaps, they would be on shore. The nearness of success shone in their eyes. Everybody took a drink of water. "Cook," remarked the captain, "there doesn't seem to be any sign of life about the house." "No," replied the cook. "Strange they don't see us." Tide, wind, and waves were swinging the boat north. "Strange they don't see us," said the men. The sea's roar was here dulled, but its tone was nevertheless thundering and huge. As the boat swam over the great waves, the men sat listening to this roar. "We'll overturn," said everybody. It is fair to say here that there was not a life-saving station within 20 miles in either direction, but the men did not know this fact, and so they made bitter remarks concerning the eyesight of the nation's life-savers. 4 unhappy men sat in the boat and murmured, "Strange they don't see us." The earlier light-heartedness had completely disappeared. To their sharpened minds it was easy to imagine all kinds of idleness and blindness, and indeed lack of courage. There was the shore of the land, and it was bitter and bitter to them that from it came no sign. The captain said at last, "I suppose we'll have to make a try for ourselves. If we stay out here too long, none of us will have strength to swim after the boat goes under."